I was originally gonna do some funny little intro where I say Candyman in the mirror 5 times, but nah, I ain't trying to die today. So Candyman is a new horror movie directed by Nia DaCosta and co-written and produced by Jordan Peele. It's a direct sequel to the original 1992 movie, and I'm here to talk about it, so let's get to it. With the Cabrini Green neighborhood now being torn down and gentrified, Anthony and his new girlfriend move into one of the new lofts. A chance encounter with one of the last remaining Cabrini Green residents exposes Anthony to the true story behind Candyman, and while he's anxious to use his newfound inspiration in his paintings, he unknowingly opens a door that unleashes a terrifying wave of violence. If you're new to the channel, thanks for stopping by. In my reviews, I discuss what I liked, what I didn't like, and then my overall thoughts. So starting with what I liked about the movie, I absolutely love the story. I love how it capitalized on everything that was great about the first movie while also expanding the mythology. I was curious how they would explain this guy with the hook on his hand, because if you know the story of Candyman, you know that's not him. But the way that played out was really cool and interesting and just added to why I liked the overall story. And even though Jordan Peele didn't direct the movie, you can clearly tell his influence in the writing. The movie really dials into the horror when it needs to, the suspense when it needs to, and surprisingly, hit with the humor pretty much every time it was used. So overall, when it comes to the writing and the directing, kudos to everybody involved. Another thing I liked was the acting. Everyone was either serviceable or good depending on their role. Nobody did a bad job, but the standout was easily Yahya Abdul-Mateen II. His story arc from the beginning of the movie to where he winds up at the end was great, and his descent into madness was just something you couldn't take your eyes off of. Another thing I liked were the kills in this movie and how it was portrayed on screen, because it wasn't your average run-of-the-mill type stuff. There were some kills that you could see, some that you couldn't see, some that you could partially see depending on how the camera was angled. How it was portrayed on screen I think was cleverly done and leaves a little bit to the imagination. Sometimes what you don't see is scarier than what you do see, and the movie really plays on that. I also like that there were some smart people in this movie too. Horror movies have a big cliche with the amount of people that just do dumb stuff that eventually gets them killed, but there are a few scenes in this movie where somebody in the scene acts exactly like you would expect somebody to act in real life. That actually leads to a lot of the funny moments in this movie, but I love how the movie does it in a way where it never feels like a parody in any way. The movie also does a good job of using social commentary in the background of what's going on. And I say good job because even though you know that the commentary is there, it's never done in a way that feels forced or like they're beating you over the head with a message. But I'm gonna go ahead and end the positive section of this video, because if I sit here and continue to talk about all the things I liked about the movie, I'll be here all day. As far as what I didn't like about the movie, there were really only 2 things, and to be honest with you, they aren't really that significant. The first thing really isn't a negative, it's more so just something I wish they would have done. And that was to expand on something a little bit that they did in the 3rd act. One character does something to another character and you understand why he's doing it because of what he said, but another 5 or so minutes explaining how he got to that point would have been nice to see. The movie overall was only about 90 minutes, so the pacing of it was great, but I think 1 or 2 extra scenes regarding that scenario would have helped. The only other thing I will say negative about this movie is that it's not for everyone. This horror film is rated R for a reason, and while it doesn't overdo it, it doesn't really hold back with the blood and the gore and the violence either. Simply put, if you don't like that kind of stuff, you're not gonna like this movie. But if you're like me and you really enjoy horror films, or you're just a fan of the original, I think you're really gonna dig this movie. So in conclusion, the story was great, the pacing was great, it was a great combination of horror and suspense. Admittedly a little less horror than some people might expect because it's not really scary. It's definitely more creepy and suspenseful than a traditional horror film, but like I said, it's a good combination of both. All that being said, I'd say this movie is Omega level. Almost 9 months into the year, and this is only the 3rd movie I've given that rating to. Now obviously you're going to want to mask up and be safe and everything, but if you feel comfortable enough to see this in theaters, see this in theaters. So that's my review of Candyman. If you've seen it already, what did you think? Leave a comment below and let me know your thoughts. Thanks for watching. If you like what you're seeing, hit that thumbs up and click that subscribe button to see what's coming next.